Hello, everyone. Welcome to the network. Welcome to the Two Dads edition.
Wait, that's not it.
Start again. What's up, fat fucker?
Two Dads, Gen X edition. That's a great beginning.
You ready?
No. I'm never ready for that.
What's the name?
Yeah, not that one. I mean, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No.
So I took a massive shit today.
Good job. How big was it? I mean, you're a nurse, so you should know if it's like healthy or not healthy, right?
Well, I did like deliver a poop baby. It was about the size of your little water bottle there.
That's not my water bottle.
No, the big black
Oh,
one.
that's not a little water bottle. That's like, let's see, how many ounces is this thing? This is over 68 ounces.
Yeah, but you know, poop is more dense, so it was like 5 pounds.
I think you need to talk to some of the doctors you work with about that problem.
It wasn't mine. It was my patient's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Well, and the great thing is...
I couldn't do your job, man.
I can't do my job half the fucking time. I mean, Jesus Christ. I sit there half the time going, why? Why me? Why? Why God? Why do you hate me so much? No, so like this guy's on his side, and he's like this 400-pound guy. Mm-hmm. And I have a nurse intern, I have a tech, and a new employee tech, nurse's aide. And, the guy's pushing and it's crowning like a fucking baby does.
Yeah.
The head's crowning and all this stuff. And I hate fecal, like I hate it. I usually make other nurses do it because they have smaller fingers. And I purposely hold my big hands up and go,
Is it like a...
Do you want this in your ass to get the poop, or do you want hers? And they always go, hers. And I was like, okay, I'll be back.
Yes.
I'll go get some lube for you. But yeah, this guy's...
It's like an OB trying to get the head out.
Yes. And it's just like crowning. And he's just like, like his blood pressure's actually kind of low. His heart rate's high. And I'm just
yeah, the body's trying to, make the muscles work down there.
And I'm like, don't code on
I've gotten delirious during a poop, but yeah, and I've never had that though.
Well, you've had some poops that are so good that you're like, damn, that was actually better than sex.
No, it's never better than sex. If it's better than sex for you, you're having sex wrong.
That's true. I'm not saying every time. I'm just saying there's some poops that are just like.
I mean, there is the aspect
so much
of like,
better.
we have our prostate down there, so there can be some, but
Stop.
No, it's not. It's not like sex.
If you're getting sexual pleasure from shit,
no, that is probably a type of sexual predator.
I mean, God actually just blessed you, I guess, because you're getting that. But, no, so like this guy's, it's coming, and so I. And so I start just like, okay, fine, fuck it, I'll pull it out. And I actually have like...
That's also what she said.
So I have this blanket, like kind of like this towel laying there, and I pull it out, and of course I can't help myself. I like swaddle it, and I go, it's a baby boy.
Did you really?
Yeah. And then he goes, did you get it? I go, I couldn't help myself. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You didn't feel
you
that?
No.
No,
he could not tell that he just...
Well, I do feel better. I'm like, yeah, you just had a shit baby.
Wow.
And like, his blood pressure regulated? Like, his heart rate got better? And we actually discharged him after that. Because he discharged.
Yeah, it's totally appropriate.
And on that note...
Oh, my goodness. Okay, you got to stop staring at me with those eyes when you play that.
All by myself. Okay.
Makes me very uncomfortable, Dawson.
So, what are we talking
Why
about?
is it that you like that?
Because it makes you so uncomfortable. That's why.
Yeah, I might start calling you Ron Jeremy.
And we've actually gotten more viewership since we put it in there.
I don't know that that's true.
I will do a study.
Okay, you do the study, and if it's proven to be true, and it's not just happenstance to be at the same time that we got more like subscribers and stuff.
Although we might have to wait until we make millions of dollars so I can have Harvard,
there we go,
do the study for me.
Yeah, and then quotes. Totally like lean it one way.
Yeah,
we'll pay them to make the outcome what we want it to be.
Yeah,
most studies.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's leave out the 12%.
Yeah, but
that was bad.
Before we go into the topic today,
which is
which is about how to be supportive in a relationship, supporting your spouse, being supported by your spouse, how to communicate, all that kind of stuff. Because it's important, and that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah,
I found that as a therapist, most people struggle with communication. But before we get into that,
and I'm excited because we now have music.
we do have music. So there's
to use. And
well,
it's actually really good.
Yeah, it's actually really good. So there's this trend on TikTok called Dads Supporting Dads, and there's a guy that reached out to me. His name's John, and his music. He asked if we would like promote new artists and stuff like that, and I told him that we'd never done it, but we would consider it and stuff like that. So I listened to some of his stuff, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, like
So-
the song that I think we want to incorporate is really awesome. About a dad, but
Yeah, it's called Miles from Home. So John's he's a surveyor. He's a blue collar guy. He's got a couple of young kids and just works his butt off. But he's trying to do better by his family by making music. And there's a lot of those new artists out there that they're putting stuff out there that it's not great, but this is actually really, really good. So we will we'll link his stuff on our podcast because it's really, really good stuff. But his name's John Crawford. He goes by Pebblepimp, and he's on Spotify and iTunes. But he gave me permission to play his music. You want to hear it?
Oh, we'll definitely put it in the outro, like behind us. And then
I'm going to play a little bit right now.
Yeah, get to the main hook.
Yeah, so here we go. This is it's got a really cool vibe to it.
Another town, another job, another night without them. Another mile, another fight, just to break even.
It's giving me chills.
Clock in, face numb, boots in the mud. Life on the road, pay soaked in blood. Scraping for change while they raise the rent. A man with a purpose, but the cash gets spent. Kids grow fast and I miss their days. Photos on my phone don't fill the space. Wife's on the phone like we'll make it through, but I hear the strain in her silence too. I have to build a
So it's like totally the experience of a lot of these blue collar guys that are out on the road, truck drivers, guys that are working road crews, things like that, where they're sacrificing so much for their families. They don't get to see their kids grow up. They're not spending time with their spouses. They're just on the road trying to make more happen for their families. And so this song actually does not get released until July. We got kind of an early
release of it.
Yeah. So, but it's Miles from Home, and it's Pebblepimp, and he's on Spotify and iTunes. And check it out. He's got a lot more music out there, and it's all good, man. I really like it. I put it on my Spotify playlist for songs I like.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in my rotation.
Well, and I that song looks perfect for this topic. Supporting your partner, and just that one line says, my wife says like we got this, but I can hear her silence.
Yeah.
It's like she's trying to be that rock for him while he's trying to be the rock for her,
right?
Kind of thing to raise her family, but she misses him, and I mean, it's a good song, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
So
tons. So why do we want to do this episode? And right now in my life, it's kind of the irony or the blessing of the kind of what I'm going through and in our relationship. Nothing like bad on the relationship part, but just circumstances that
you guys have had some tough stuff happen recently.
And just being supportive. And in my last relationship, like my marriage, I was young, stupid, didn't have a dad growing up, didn't really have that cohesive parenting to have that example of the dad supporting the mom supporting the dad. It was just always, I don't want to say emptiness, but it was just kind of like two people surviving half the time and not really working together. So, through marriage counseling, I definitely learned how I fucked up and didn't support her the way she wanted, but we also learned that we didn't communicate those things. And that's the problem, is we weren't communicating well enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the big struggles with relationships is communication. Yeah. So when I'm working with couples, and I don't work with a lot of couples, but I always work with a lot of one sides of the couple. So whether it's the husband or the wife, the common thing is that people don't know how to communicate. We think that when we're talking, that's communicating, but communication, like 80% of communication is listening, and we don't listen very well.
Oh, I know. That's a hard thing to really learn because it's like you want to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some people that are so dominating that it's like, no, mine's more important to listen to, when really both people's concerns and understanding, like, they're both important to listen to. It's just you got to stop and listen. And I think the biggest thing for me to learn was to not get butthurt.
Right.
Like when she communicated, you did this is how it made me feel. Could you do this differently? You know, she's telling me the recipe to be successful in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But me being younger back then, I'd be like, well, what the hell, man? Like, why don't you just tell me this in the first place, or do this or do that? And basically I would dismiss her feelings, and instead of actually listening you know, to what she was telling me.
Well, and so, like, you know, in my first marriage, one of the things that we started off doing, we ended up, you know, one of the signs of things failing was when we stopped doing this. But the idea was that if we could defend each other's point of view on whatever the discussion was, whatever the argument was, then, like, if I could articulate her perspective and how she felt, then that helped me understand her perspective and be able to adjust myself without being told or asked. You know, if I know how she's feeling, or if I know what she's thinking, or if I know, you know, what hurts, what doesn't, then I can make adjustments on my own. But I think one of the things that we kind of mistakenly promote in marriage is a 50-50 relationship.
Yeah.
And it's not 50-50. It's not an equal partnership. Sort of.
Well, and we talked about that in a previous episode where I really learned that it's 100%. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Your partnership is achieving things together at 100%. And
Together.
Yeah. And I think what I really learned, and I think what hit home for me, I think it was Gordon Peterson that talked about it, is you'll have days where I go to my partner and go, hey, man, I'm at 20%. I'm really struggling just to get by.
Yeah.
And that partner should go, okay, I got the 80. You know, I got you. You know,
right.
Kind of thing. And vice versa. And then there's days that you're both are like, I'm at 20. I'm like, okay, screw it. Let's get in bed. Let's just hang out and cuddle, and let's just renew us and just focus on us. You know, and I think the opposite is people go, I need to renew myself. I need to get away. I got to get away.
Right.
And so what I definitely learned in multiple relationships is when you start drifting apart, that's when you need to be drifting together.
Yeah.
And most often, and I learned from that movie, This Is 40, how your relationship is on a vacation is truth to your relationship. Because there's no bills, there's no shit driving you nuts. It's really just you and your partner on your vacation enjoying each other and your kids or family or whatever. And so if you go on vacation and you're miserable and you're fighting and
yeah, that tells you a lot.
the little things just pissing her off or vice versa, you know, you're struggling in a relationship.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong things.
Well, and one of the things that helps find that balance, that's how I like to say it, is it's about finding a balance in a relationship, not that 50-50. One of the things that helps you find the balance is understanding what each other's roles in the relationship are going to be. You know, you can have a very traditional, you can have a very modern marriage, all that kind of stuff, but if both people are on board with what those roles are, you know, so in both of my marriages, and yeah, just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean my life is perfect. It just means I know where I'm screwing up a little bit better. But neither of my ex-wives really worked. I was the sole provider pretty much the entire time in both marriages. And, you know, so there's that traditional role of, okay, if I'm the provider, if I'm the one making the money, then if I'm coming home and I'm making dinner still and I'm helping clean up the house and then I'm taking care of kids and I'm helping get them to bed and all this other stuff, you know, what's the partner doing? And initially it was like, yeah, I have no problem helping. You know, that's what men are supposed to do, is help out the wife at home, you know, you help with the kids, all that kind of stuff. Cause that's, you know, we're one of the parents. That's what we do. But over time, if it becomes more and more of that, it starts kind of eating away at that balance, and it starts building resentment. And then you have the problem of like, husbands who are working a whole lot, and then they get told, you're never home, you're never around the kids, and when you're home, you're always stressed, and you're always this. It's like there's those roles that we need to balance out, and whatever that role is, as a couple, being able to talk about what, before actually, committing to like a marriage and kids and all that kind of stuff, talking about those roles becomes a really positive and beneficial thing, so that going into the relationship, you can identify what the two of you are going to do, and then a process to revisit and talk through what changes might need to happen, what's not working, what's working well. That part of the communication is what helps to maintain that balance, and that's where we fail.
Well, and I think definitely we'll dive more into that when we do a role reversal.
Yeah.
The next episode. But the thing is so what besides what does supporting your partner look like to you?
So I am very, very blessed to have a great example with my parents. So my mom was a kind of a stay-at-home mom. I mean, she also was, my dad was an attorney, very, very, he was pretty successful, but he worked a ton, spent a lot of hours. She did his billing. She was his office manager. She, did hiring and firing sometimes, and, at different times when it was needed. So she would sacrifice for him to be successful because his work is what provided for the family. But she was, she would raise us kids. There are 10 of us. That's a lot of work. And we were raised to be independent and do our, just because my dad was an attorney doesn't mean like we didn't do anything. We were the people that kept the house up.
Yeah, the kids. Yeah,
we did our own laundry. I mean, I was doing my own laundry by the time I was 7 or 8 years old. We had like 2 washers, 2 dryers because there were so many of us.
Yeah. Well,
but it was that process of like, how do we support our spouse? It's what are the needs? How do we identify the needs? And then finding out how do we fulfill those needs for each other through that communication so that we can be supportive. Being open to what our spouse actually says or a partner actually says, right? So if the husband's coming home and he's a, like a blue collar guy, kind of like John, with the Pebblepimp, he's on the road, he's working hard, he's gone. And that stress is difficult when you come home, especially if somebody's working 14, 15 hours a day and they come home and they're exhausted. Instead of complaining about, well, you don't spend a lot of time with the kids. Well, if he is spending time with the kids and playing with them, even though he's exhausted, honoring that, supporting that. If she's, if it's that traditional role, kind of, if she's keeping the house and paying the bills and everything's taken care of because of her effort, him honoring that, showing that respect and that appreciation for what each other does do rather than complaining about the things that you're not doing.
Yeah, and I think, it really is one of those things where it can be no matter who's working out there. I mean, that person's sacrificing their time.
I'd love to have a sugar mama.
Yeah.
I'd be totally supportive.
I've been there. But, it's kind of the recognizing of both roles, and it just recognizing that person, telling them thank you for what you do. I had a coworker that she worked part time, raised the kids. She pretty much just worked weekends, and then her husband worked 800 hours a week and stuff like that. And they had 3 kids, I believe, and it was on the third's graduation day. Her husband just turned to her and said, thank you for helping raise just amazing kids, being there, doing all the school activities. I wish I could have helped you more, but because of you, we have amazing kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And she admitted, she goes, I was literally talking to a lawyer to get divorced because I didn't think he appreciated me. And I called my lawyer and told, never mind.
Yeah.
And they have the best relationship now because their kids are older and they're finding each other again and stuff like that. But him stopping that moment and saying it, which kind of made me really believe that he never did that whole time, or maybe it wasn't quite what she needed to hear.
Yeah.
And I was just like, damn, that's cool, man, kind of thing. So it's just so how do you talk to the partner How do you communicate? And this goes both ways. Like, I can say, hey, tell me what you need. And, my partner can say, I don't know. And they might generally not know.
Yeah.
And you have to be open to feeling helpless, which is really hard. I want to say for the man, and it really is for the woman too. And not to get hurt by what they tell you. Like, if you...
Or triggered.
And we talked about this last one, like, if you ask your man, what's wrong, are you okay, and you just start talking, or you start interrupting him.
Yeah, you don't give him the time to actually respond.
Because he might be like, shit, no, but I don't know how to tell you I'm not. I don't know how to communicate this, or I don't want to come across as weak to you. I don't want to look like I'm not that rock, that foundation. And I tell you, women, it's like, it's hard for a man to show that side.
Yeah.
Because we've been taught, especially Gen X, baby boomers, anything older, like we were taught, you don't fucking share. You just fucking bog down and do it.
Yep.
And get it done. Yep. And yeah, it's just if you ask your partner both ways, like, shut the fuck up and listen.
I wouldn't necessarily say that to your partner, but
yeah.
Because if you're at that point, it's probably no. But the thing is like, we train people how to respond to us based on what we do, right?
Yeah.
And so if we have if we want to know what's actually going on with our partner, and we ask them what's really going on, and either we basically tell them what they're supposed to be feeling, or we jump right in and move on and say, well, you're not communicating, and so all this, we're not allowing for that process to happen. And what you're doing is you're training your spouse, you're training your partner not to answer that question, not to open up to you, not to feel vulnerable and be safe with that vulnerability, because especially if, and there's definitely women out there who do this. I've experienced it myself, where they take what you say in those vulnerable times and then they use it against you later.
Yeah, that was previous relationships every time.
Yeah, and so that will destroy the relationship, because what you're telling your partner, whether it's to the man or to the woman, or two men, two women, whatever it is, but if one partner is using the vulnerability of the other against them later on, that person will never open up again.
Yeah,
they'll never trust it.
Well, in my marriage, like, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Yeah,
like, because I didn't have good examples, because I was raised to just bog down, get the fucking shit done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't bitch until after it's done. Then bitch about it, because it's done. And for me, it was hard because in counseling, my ex-wife, the counselor asked, it's like, okay, when did you feel like your marriage was done, or when did you start losing interest in the marriage?
Right. And
what she told me shocked me, because it was so early on in our relationship that I was just like, really? So for like another 10 years, you didn't trust me, you didn't value me, you didn't respect me. What were we doing? Kind of thing. It's like, you were going to get advice from other people, your bosses mostly, because that's who you looked up to. And I was just like, I had your back this whole freaking time. In
the best way that you knew how.
I raised our kid, raised our kids young so you could blossom your career. I sacrificed tons of most of my friends. Like, I just gave up so much so she could achieve the one thing she thought she had to have to be happy, because that's what was programmed into her.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear that, and I could look back and go, yeah, I didn't do that right. I fucked up. I didn't do it right. But I did ask you.
Whether you did it right or not, you have to have a willing partner for it to go smooth, for it to be able to resolve. Both people have to be invested in the process.
And I did ask. I'm like, what do you need? How can I help you? Kind of thing. And I don't want to divulge the whole scenario, but she didn't know. And that's where I learned that it's okay if they don't know. It's okay to feel helpless. It's sometimes you just sit down and you be quiet and you just hold your partner and just say, okay, we got this. We got this. We'll get through this. If you figure out what you need, just let me know. I'll be there for you. And what you were saying with the role reversal, it's like, well, if you do this, then maybe I'll be good. If you do this, maybe I'll be good. Maybe this, and then it becomes the normal, and then they criticize you for not doing those things because, well, I told you I needed this to feel better. Now you're not
Right.
doing it, so you're not supporting me. It's like,
So,
wow, whoa.
I have a client. I'm not going to, of course, say who it is or anything like that, but they're in couples counseling. I see one person, but they're in couples counseling together, and one of the things that they expressed was that the couples counselor said, and the intimacy is basically shot right now. They're not connecting, they're not communicating, that kind of stuff. But the couples counselor said that for the spouse to feel safe so that they can be open and connect, it is my client's responsibility to create that environment. And so they feel like everything's on their shoulders, everything's their fault. But I disagree with that perspective. I understand why that's said, but I disagree with it for this reason. If one person has all the power, then that hijacks the relationship based on the mood or the feelings of one person.
Yeah.
And if she's whether it's a he or a she that's experiencing it, and whichever one it is, but if they're like, well, and this is one of the things that happens a lot too. It's like they ask you to change something, so you start changing it, but you're not perfect at first.
Yeah.
You make mistakes. You revert back, and every time that you kind of make the mistake, they go, "Oh, see, I can't trust you. You're not actually changing," and it just reinforces this negative mindset of unsafe, all this kind of stuff, rather than identifying or recognizing that somebody's making the effort. One of the things that I do encourage is if there's positive momentum, praise the positive momentum and focus on that.
You're talking about that, when you ask them to change, and no one's going to change overnight. Like, like habits take 28 days, all that good stuff. And you have to give your partner that grace period for change and recognize, and like you said, give him positive reinforcement. Hey, thank you so much.
And her.
Her. Sorry. Sorry. I'm just used to my trauma.
Well, we are talking from our perspective too, so.
But yeah, you have to give your partner some recognition and credit, and I think just everyone in the world loves to hear thank you. You're doing what I asked. I really appreciate it. I know you're trying, because that does it. I'm not alone.
It encourages more.
Well, it just also strengthens that bond between the couple, because that person feels like they express their feelings and they feel like they heard me and they're trying to do it. Now, if you're the kind of person that's literally trying to change your partner every little thing, that's probably not the partner for you, and vice versa.
That's people like that spend a lot of years in a very, very difficult relationship because they're expecting their partner to change behaviors that they've had their entire lives sometimes.
I mean, I had a friend of mine that he liked this girl. They were on a date and everything, and she goes, "Do you have to do that?" And he goes, "Can you be more specific?" She goes, "Just the way you just breathe." And he goes, "Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I have to do that, because if I don't, I die."
What is it, John and Kate +8 or whatever?
Oh, my God.
When she was like, in that interview where she turns to him and is like, "Why do you have to breathe so loud?"
Yeah, and he's just
he's like, "What the?"
And he was really upset.
He was miserable, dude.
And
you could see it.
Oh, he was, yeah. But like my friend, he was like so hurt. And he's like, I mean, like, what do I do? Like,
how do I change how I breathe?
I'm like, dude, not good. I mean, if she's already that way in 2 dates, you need to run, man. Like,
Big time.
seriously.
Big time. Yeah, that's a massive red flag, because if it's over something that minor, what are they going to do over something major, right?
Yeah. It's like, do you have to poop that big? Seriously, can you pinch it off?
Yeah. Or what about, like, not cleaning up, hair in the sink when you shave or something, or trim or whatever. It's like a lot of people don't clean up their sinks in their bathroom right away.
Yeah. Well, shit, that was annoying. We actually had like the 2 bathrooms, and like our bathroom was like twice the size as this little recording area, and I literally would just clean my half.
Yeah.
And
that's the resentfulness coming out, right?
Well, it's just frustrating because like every girl I've ever dated in the past, not now, they're like, it's not my responsibility. You clean the toilet, you clean this, you clean that. And I'm like, but that's your shit over there, your makeup, your eyeliner. I don't know how to get that eyeliner out of a white
whatever
tile, $10,000 tile or whatever. I'm like, but if you look at mine, I can take a picture of this and put it in a magazine for a positive reinforcement, and we'll take a picture of your side for negative reinforcement kind of thing. And I tell my son and my daughter, I go, those people that take selfies of themselves and the background is just completely fucking trashed.
Oh, yeah.
Do not fucking date that person.
Nope.
Because you will be cleaning up after them all the time.
And it's just going to undermine everything. And because the thing is like going back to those roles and stuff like that, chores, jobs, what are, if I hate laundry, is she okay with doing laundry? If she's not okay with doing laundry either, then how do we do it to where it's effective, right? Or if there's something that really bothers me, how do I find out if they even want to change it?
Well, yeah. And I think we'll definitely get in that next episode because I have a lot of feelings about that. So can you describe like actually active listening and healthy communication as a therapist, like what you recommend?
Sure. So kind of the overall idea about active listening, and again, active listening is, listening's 80% of communication, but the active listening is the essential part because what you do is you're actually listening to understand the why of what somebody's saying. You're not just listening to the words they say. You're not paying attention to you're paying attention to all the details, but tone, body language, facial expression, all that kind of stuff is all part of communication. But why is somebody feeling the way that they're feeling? If I say I'm pissed off, great. Why am I pissed off? Well, I don't know. I'm just pissed off. Okay, it's hard to fix anything or work on anything if that's all we get, right? So the active listening is kind of like you're inviting them to explain how they actually feel, why they feel that way, where it comes from, that kind of stuff. Maybe that it's motivated by triggers from past relationships or from childhood or whatever, go a little Freudian on you. But the active listening is this process of you are listening to what they say, you repeat back to them what you heard them say, so they have an opportunity to say either, yes, that's what I said, or they can correct what they've said or change what they've said to express more accurately what they've actually been feeling. And you repeat it back and in your own words. It's not like you're repeating them word for word, but it's like, okay, so what I heard you say is that this is what you've been feeling, and this is what this, when I do this, this is how it triggers you. Am I understanding that correctly, right? In that process, we gain that understanding of the why much more effectively than just hearing what people say.
Yeah.
And then once they feel heard,
And
that was a great movie.
No, and
Dude, where's my car? Anyway, so what we are able to do after that is, one, we're gaining knowledge as to why somebody's behaving a certain way. That knowledge helps educate what we do next. And what we do next can oftentimes, if we're actively working on trying to improve things, what we do next can actually heal a lot of damage from past stuff.
Yeah, because you're gaining trust. If you're in a relationship with a person that actually does that,
is a participating partner. Yeah,
because there are people that take active listening and use it
to manipulate.
And manipulate the narcissist.
And that's not active listening. That's finding tool. I think Gottman uses it, or he calls it keeping score. Or it's like you're holding on to all the information that you can use the next time.
Well, and we had that too. Like, I think that's a big thing is you don't bring up other fights in the current fight. Because it can get to the point where I don't even know what the fuck we're arguing about anymore.
Well, and one of the things that happens too, and this is very, very common, and this is where the active listening really kind of helps stop this process. But when we're in an argument, when we're having a disagreement with a partner, and they say something that we either are offended by or is inaccurate or they're accusing us of something, what is our default? What do you do immediately?
Like, get the facts right. Fact check.
Right. You want to defend yourself. You want to correct it. You want to whatever, right? When you're thinking about your response to what somebody said that's inaccurate, are you listening to anything else they're saying?
Nope.
No. You are responding to the thing that triggered you instead of actively listening to the why behind what they're saying. And then the other problem is like you said, keeping score, where it's like we bring up old stuff, right? Yeah. Why do we bring up old stuff? Because we have to prove that we're right.
Yeah, I think
we
people
have to justify ourselves.
To justify their feelings and say, well, you did this same time. Or I think sometimes, with one of my relationships, it was like, well, yours was worse than what I did.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I'm not as bad, so I'm okay.
So I would actually say, hey, when you did this, it really really kind of hurt my feelings, and this is why. And I'm like, well, a week ago you did that. It's about the same, so
it's even.
Yeah, we're good. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's the eye for an eye thing, right? It's like, you
like,
punched
well,
me in the face, and now I get to punch you in the face too. Now we both have black eyes. How is that better, right? And in a relationship, how in the world is that better when it's supposed to be the person that you're trying to build a life with, that you love, that you support, that you care about, that you trust, that you want to, all this? How is that going to help anything? It's just going to keep undermining the relationship.
Yeah. Well, how do you break that cycle, though? Let's say you've just kind of gotten this cycle of that where you're just not active listening. Like, how do you train couples to break that cycle?
So you can't train somebody to break the cycle. They have to recognize the need to.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, like, as a therapist, I'm not telling people what to do. I do that occasionally, but only because that's what they ask for or because they need it.
Like flush twice.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Wash your hands. Yeah. No, but so one of the hardest things to do is to identify your own shit and take ownership of your own shit and not put it on the other person. How many relationships have you been in or have heard about where people say, it's like, well, they're just like my ex.
Yeah.
No, that's you putting your shit on another person.
Yeah.
Just because he's also a male doesn't mean he's like your ex.
Yeah.
There are personality traits and behaviors that are common throughout most of society. That doesn't mean they're like your ex. Okay,
so how do you encourage them or show them the skills to work on breaking those after they recognize it? Okay, yeah, it's part of me. It's me. I need to, I'm not listening. I'm getting defensive. How do you? What's the best way?
I'm gonna promote therapy now.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. It's like
with a good therapist, good therapist that's gonna help you help hold you accountable and that kind of thing. I'll tell you about a couple that I've worked with for quite some time. They now just check in periodically when they need to, but the very first session that I had with them, it's kind of an introductory session, that kind of stuff. And so I asked the question of like, hey, how long have you guys been married? And she turned to him. She goes, so how long have we been married? And I stopped them and I said, hold on. Why are you testing him? And she's like, I'm not testing him. I said, yeah, you're testing him. You just turned to him and questioned if he knew how long you guys had been married. Why do you feel the need to do that? She had no idea she was doing it.
Yeah.
And so it's having those kinds of things pointed out where we are willing to and able to reflect on our own behavior so that we're getting out of our own way in the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, when I recognize my abandonment issues, and that's where, we talk about triggers, going how to recognize your triggers. That was kind of a big thing for me. It's like when I felt like the silence, not communicating.
I hate silence.
Oh, shit, I'm losing it. But I've actually grown really well, like learning the silence is what sometimes they need, sometimes they appreciate, kind of stuff. And it's just, but that's having a partner currently that has helped me feel safe with silence.
Right. Well, and it takes, a good therapist or a really close friend who is honest and will call you out for your stuff,
Mark.
But I mean, I've done that for you. You've done that for me at times.
Yeah.
Where we've called each other out for our shit. But
that's because you took a shit that was so big.
No, that was your client or your patient. that was the shit baby that you helped deliver.
It's your baby boy. It's like the collect call.
Did they put it up for adoption?
It's your baby boy. It was adopted very fast. The trash company took it.
Yeah, right.
Actually,
it couldn't be flushed.
I tried to flush it. It actually clogged it. We had to get like a pole and actually jam it down and break it up. It was like the worst.
All right. Okay.
And we're back to
there we go. Man, that was great diversion. No, but and so that's really what it takes. We have to be able to recognize that we are our own problem.
Yeah.
And when we are reacting to somebody, we're probably just reacting to our own small T trauma, not big T trauma. I hate when people throw the word trauma around. Yeah. But our own traumatic experiences, our own difficulties or challenges as we were growing up or past relationships, and sometimes it is a valid capital T trauma. Yeah. But that's our stuff. That's on me. So I'm talking to a girl.
What?
I know. And she's pretty awesome, but
Is she paid for?
I don't do that. No, I don't do that. No, but like a little while ago, she's got a lot going on in her life, really busy, and she's like, "Hey, I need some time. You know, it's not really a great time for me to be in a relationship." And I was like, "Of course, you know, if that's what you need, that's what you need." And I respected that. Didn't contact her or anything like that.
It's not me. It's you.
That's one of my insecurities, right? So because I recognize that that's my insecurity, I actively try and not let my kind of my brain run away with me, where it's like, oh no, it's this or it's that or it's whatever. And so I was, you know, kind of battling back and forth a little bit. Battling's a strong word. About was this just an out, right?
Yeah. Toying.
Yeah, well, not toying necessarily, but like, how do I let him off gently, kind of thing, right? And we talked yesterday, and you know, everything's good, but that was my insecurity, right?
Yeah.
And I have to be aware of that. I have to work on that. It's not her responsibility to fix my insecurity. That's my responsibility. But I have to be able to identify that that's my insecurity.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what you're saying is like, if the relationship has gotten to the point that there's no active listening, there's no really communicating, it's just tit for tat, eye for eye, that's where we do recommend, you know, go to a therapist. Because really, like, some people think therapy is like, how do I learn to take care of that person? Or how do I learn to deal with that person? When really, it's really, how do I learn to take care of me?
Yeah.
And help me understand how I'm communicating. Maybe I'm communicating completely wrong. And that's the one thing that I was happy with our marriage counseling is my counselor, she recognized right away, okay, you're not respecting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how can she respect you? Because you don't even take care of yourself in a way that you can communicate what you need from her. And so, you know, I was grateful to have that time with that therapist to kind of find my voice again and stand up for me. And, you know, and I kind of fell into those same habits of picking the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually got on, and I wish we could get sponsored by them, BetterHelp, because, you know, that's one of those apps that you can pick your time, make it convenient. You find a therapist that's catered to you and what you need. And I found a great therapist that was awesome, you know, and, you know, I'm definitely going to put that in the link down below, you know, in the description for people. And being Mental Health and Awareness Month, honestly, guys, you're never alone. You're never by yourself. You don't have to do everything on your own. You know, sometimes just talking to somebody that has no stake in your life helps, you know.
And it's because it's the outside looking in, right? I've got most of my clients, that's kind of what they're looking for, where it's they're struggling with stuff and they just need a different perspective. They just need to be heard.
Yeah.
And as they talk about the things they're struggling with, I don't do a whole lot. I point out a couple of things, and like they have their own epiphanies, and those epiphanies are like, oh, great. So why don't you focus on what you're learning from this? And it's that process of being able to talk it out with somebody who can identify those epiphanies and help guide the conversation to discover those is the benefit of therapy with a good therapist.
Yeah, and I think that's what you need to identify those triggers.
Yeah.
And so you can better communicate. Because, you know, a lot of times when you have a trigger, you shut down. You know, if you feel like you're being triggered by someone's past, I mean, you can be dating somebody for 3-4 years, and then you do something that triggers them to like a traumatic, like a bad event, and they did not do anything like that.
Nope.
But it just is like that, and that person just automatically is like, oh my God, they're like this. Is my relationship going to turn into this kind of thing? Okay, so let's say I'm a guy that fucking hates therapy, and I don't want to waste my time going. Like, what? Because I'm.
There's a lot of men out there that, you know, the idea of therapy, they laugh off, right? That's ridiculous. You know, we're supposed to be strong. We're men, right? And that's one of the things I love about this movement on TikTok of dads supporting dads, men supporting men. Yeah. We're all kind of struggling, man. Yeah. So I started going to therapy because I got back from Iraq and I recognized signs of PTSD and I've always been of the opinion, like, if my water heater's out, I'm not calling a cop. I'm calling a plumber, right? If I have a legal issue, I'm not going to the crossing guard. I'm going to get an attorney. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stress, and if you're feeling like you're just not making it, you're not getting ahead, you're just, the constant struggle that most of us men feel often, not all the time necessarily, but we feel it at different times. That's what therapy is for. One of the things that I've always promoted is that real men are not real men necessarily. I'm not saying people aren't real men, but the strength of a man is shown by their willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because being vulnerable is one of the most scary things, because that means somebody can use it against us.
But yeah, and if you're in a relationship where she does
Mm-hmm.
or he does, kind of thing, it's hard. And so, I mean, I was not really against it. I just really felt like they always made, like every show I ever saw was like it was always the man's fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. It's his fault. The girl,
He's the toxic one, right?
But I do love now we're starting to see more shows where it's just communicate better. Open communication. The people that I know that have great relationships, they feel safe with their partner. They communicate with their partner. Now, I would say if you have a friend that is non-biased, I'd say that's you for me. Mark's in that way. It's like, and they're not going to throw it in your face down the road. That's the right person. Now, if you're just going to someone and bitching and then, oh, he did this, she did this.
Yeah, if you don't vent, there's places you can go to vent. People you can talk to.
And they encourage that hate and that disruption in your relationship. That's not a person you should be going to, because it's just going to feed that resentment towards your partner, and which down the road leads to, the family breaking up, cheating, stuff like that, because that person isn't supporting you in a way that a therapist would, or a non-biased friend, or a church, someone in your church that can talk to you. Because a lot of times people just need to vent. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that most men struggle with is being able to identify what we're actually feeling. We just know we feel like shit.
Yeah.
We just know that we're stressed. We just know that we're depressed, but we don't know why.
The other thing, too, being in healthcare, if you are depressed, tired, and just really struggling in general, have your testosterone checked, because that's a huge one with men.
Vitamin D.
Because if your testosterone is low, if it's low, you have a harder time processing things, focusing, having the energy, the will to just do stuff. It might not even be depression. It might just literally your testosterone is low. Like I definitely said mine was 7. Normal is 200 to 1200.
And 200 is still low.
And I still couldn't give it approved for anything. So I just started working out. What did I do? Increase testosterone.
I'm a therapist who does not push medications. They have their place, but it's just because you're feeling depressed doesn't mean you get on an antidepressant. There's circumstances that may be causing the depression. It may be an imbalance in the hormones, or you're just not outside enough to get that sunlight to get the vitamin D, or your iron's low, or things like that. And so it's like, well, let's figure out if there's something else going on before just throwing an antidepressant at you.
Yeah.
If it's needed, it's needed. I mean, I was on an antidepressant for like 7 years. I almost got off of it, and then my first wife asked for a divorce, and I was like, probably not the best time.
And then you got a divorce. And you were happy again.
It was another like 3 years, because that divorce took forever, and it was challenging. But having somebody that you can talk to that can actually help you identify why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, help talk you through it, so that you can do that, so that we can reflect on our own situation,
Yeah, and I'll just say again, like, if you're wanting to go to therapy to change your partner, again, that's not what we recommend.
And I've had that where spouses send their, I've had men come in where I was like, my wife wants me to change this. Great. Do you want to change it? Do you think it's a problem? I don't care what your wife says. I'm not going to do what she tells me to do as a therapist. I'm going to find out what you're actually wanting to work on.
What you need.
But it's every single one of those situations so far have ended in divorce.
Yeah. Hey, all right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It just really boils down to good communication, active listening, taking time to hear your partner and reinforcing positive behavior.
Well, and also being accountable for your own stuff, not putting your shit on somebody else. It's not them necessarily. It may be just you, and being able to recognize that you're putting past stuff on your current partner.
Yeah.
Is oftentimes the problem that's going on.
Hey, we appreciate you guys stopping by today.
Thanks for joining us and listening in. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you.
Yeah, I've learned a lot over the multiple relationships, and I've learned that you do have to take accountability for what your triggers are, and that your current relationship isn't like that one. Yeah, there might be similarities, but is the intent the same? Is the scenario actually the same? And I guarantee 100% it's probably no. But
give yourself some grace in the process of learning and growing, and give your partner some grace too. Yeah, they're learning and growing too, hopefully.
And that's how some of the best relationships, all the patients that I've had that have been married for 60 years, I think 100% of them always said good communication.
Yeah.
And then always make your partner laugh.
I mean, my dad's 84 and my mom's 81, I think. 81 this October. But they've had plenty of issues that they have worked through, and they're still married. They're still happy. They still have issues. But
don't give up.
Yeah, not issues like, there's a big kind of thing. But there's still little quirks, right?
Big turd in the toilet.
But they're learning. They're constantly learning. Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks again. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that little bell for updates.
Remember that we do this for our enjoyment, our pleasure, but we hope that you enjoy it too.
Hey, and honestly, we really are working on doing more podcasts with humor for dads and for women that want to understand their spouse and vice versa. But really, the better you is going to lead to a better self, dad, and husband. So appreciate you guys for joining us. Stay classy, Kansas City.
Another town, another job, another night without them. Another mile, another fight, just to break even. Clocking, face numb, boots in the mud. Life on the road, pay soaked in blood. Scraping for change while they raise the rent. A man with a purpose, but the cash gets spent. Kids grow fast and I miss their days. Photos on my phone don't fill the space. Wife's on the phone like we'll make it through, but I hear the strain in her silence too. I left to build a better life, but it's tearing me apart each night. I give it all just to survive. Still feel like I'm falling behind. But I'm miles from home with a heart half gone. Working these nights just to keep the lights on. When they don't see the weight I drag, just a broken man with a high-vis tag. I bleed for love, but it's never enough. This world takes more when you're built from tough. From doing all I can, still feel alone. Fighting for my family from miles from home. Boss says grind or you're off the books. Meanwhile my son learns to read from looks. I'm building towers with strangest names, while my little girl cries asking who's to blame. Gas tank low but I press that pedal. Soul gets numb while I wrestle the metal. They sell you dreams but the price is steep. You trade your peace for bills you keep. I swore I'd make a better way, but I just fade more every day. These hands are worn, this heart is bruised, and I still feel like I'm gonna lose. 7 miles from home with a heart half gone. Working these nights just to keep the lights on. They don't see the weight I drag, just a broken man with a high-vis tag. I bleed for love, but it's never enough. This world takes more when you're built from tough. From doing all I can, still feel alone. miles from home.
Tell them I'm coming. I'm almost there.